your cane and welcome to a brand new episode of All Figured Out. As always, this show is sponsored by Nema Studios. They've sent us some wicked shit to look at this week, so I can't wait to get into it. The first thing that we're going to check out is these guys. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I did a whole little mini documentary All Figured Out episode. It took me fucking ages to edit, and it was all about the Toxic Crusaders. And we looked at... It was all to get down to these guys, but we looked at all the history of Toxic Crusaders and all the other toys that came out and that kind of thing and all the other action figures. But we were basically talking about these, the Toxic Crusaders little Keshi toxic barrel that they released. And I said at that point, I goes, oh, I can't wait to see what else they release, Toxic Crusaders. I hope they bring some more shit out. Well, they've fucking blessed us like royally. Not only are we going to get a full series of 3.75 reaction figures that are coming out real soon, they just dropped like the first images of them on their Instagram and shit. Super7 did, that make these toys, but then they released these in the meantime. Pow! These are like little Keshi figures in the muscle colours. You get two in a pack, but then you also get a little toxic blind bag. And you know why that's special? Because back in the day when they released the Playmates Toxic Crusaders, like Ninja Turtle style action figures, every single one of them came with a little secret mutant pollution bag like that, and what you'd do is you'd rip it open and inside would be a glow-in-the-dark accessory for your figure. So I'm pretty sure that inside there's going to be a glow-in-the-dark one. The Keshi figures, they had a couple of glow-in-the-dark ones, so I'm pretty sure inside there's going to be some glow-in-the-dark figure. I'm not going to open them, there's no need to open them. We opened up this barrel in that episode. I'll put the link in the comments or at the end of the video or some shit like that, and you can see everything that we talked about with the Toxic Crusaders Keshi. So there's no need to open them, but I love these so much. They've got that classic orange and yellow like biohazard warning strip around there, that hazard strip. I love them colours, I love the toxic shit. We've got some original Toxie artwork there, not original but in the original style of Toxie. There's also a detox tip: don't be a punk, recycle junk. Standard. I always recycle in this house. I tell everybody to recycle. Save the sea, save the whales, save the dolphins eating plastic bags and shit. Recycle all that shit, just like the Toxic Crusaders. Next up, we've got a line that I've been waiting for so fucking long. These guys, the They Live 3.75 reaction figures. What's really, really disappointing about this series is that there was actually going to be three in it. There was going to be these two guys, two aliens, and then Rowdy Roddy Piper as John Nada with the sunglasses. But for some reason, I've heard that they've lost the license to do that likeness right now. So it's something that we might get later on down the line, because we saw it at one of the big New York toy conventions, and then for some reason, or it might have been San Diego Comic Con, something like that, but we saw John Nada actually made into a prototype figure, but for some reason they haven't got the license right now. Either they've not got it, or they haven't got it for the foreseeable future, or they haven't got it at all. Either way, it would have been so cool to get that guy, because these two with him would have just been fucking awesome. But trust me, They Live is one of my favourite movies of all time, so any merchandise you can get, I'm always all over it. And for some reason, this film just does not get much merchandise. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's something to do with like a blanket license on early John Carpenter movies, but a lot of the Halloween merch that we see, it's always like Halloween Resurrection. When we looked at the horror Funko Savage World figures, that Michael Myers was specifically Halloween Resurrection, not like Halloween, the original first movie. I don't know who's got the license to that or where that lies in the licensing with this stuff, but for some reason, yeah, you can't get a lot of They Live merchandise. I love They Live so much that I created my own They Live toy. I made a full video on this channel, you can see it again, I'll link it in the comments or at the end of the video, where I created my own They Live madball, because I loved the NECA madballs that they made, the horror madballs, but there was some that they didn't have licenses for, so I made an Evil Dead Necronomicon Ball of the Dead, and I made a They Live alien, and there's some others that I'd like to make, but I just haven't had the time to create them yet. But I love this design so much. I got this VHS from the car boot when I was a kid. You know I love VHS. Again, I'll link it in the comments. We just did a whole video in a vintage VHS store that we built for Halloween, but I love that artwork on them old covers. And They Live, when I found that at the car boot, I was like, what the fuck? There's an action movie with Roddy Piper fighting aliens by John Carpenter. I need that shit in my life, and I've never not needed that shit in my life in the whole time that I've been alive. We've also got that bad boy Jason Edmonston artwork. You know I love that Jason Edmonston artwork. VHS artwork is my favourite artwork of all time, and this shit is just so reminiscent of that. If you haven't seen the movie, it's very fucking awesome. Check it out. It's by John Carpenter. It stars Roddy Piper, Keith David. There's an awesome wrestling fight scene that takes place in an alleyway that lasts for fucking ages. It's like one of the best scenes in the movie. It's so uncalled for and so unnecessary, but it's so fucking awesome.
I'm giving you a choice. Either put on these glasses or start eating that trash can.
And every single year that I'm alive, this movie becomes more and more and more relevant. And if you watch it, you'll know exactly why. They've also got included with each one of these figures a little tiny, like, surveillance drone. Again, all this shit's coming into fruition in real life. John Carpenter predicted this shit all the way back then, and nah, this shit's real. There is surveillance drones, and give it 30 years, there'll be fucking drones flying around everyone, always, constantly. And he predicted all this shit. And the sculpts on the face are bang on. A lot of the times with the reaction figures, they really have to tone down the detail on the faces to keep them within that kind of Star Wars style and that small. But not with these guys. They've really gone to town with the detail on the faces. Like, I really, really like these figures. Hopefully we can get a Roddy Piper figure. We've got to get that. We need that kick-ass and chew bubblegum figure with the glasses that can take off and the shotgun. Fucking awesome. Please, whoever's got the license to that, whoever's been dodgy with the likeness rights, don't do it. We need this figure so much. There's no cool They Live figures. We need a Roddy Piper to go with our They Live aliens. And then finally we've got this thing. Check that. Not Super7 this time, Monstars. Monstars released some really fucking cool figures. They released the Critter, the little Krite that we had on this show before. They did the Reanimator figures, they did some other Creepshow toys, and now they've released the fluffy crate creature from Creepshow. I've got such an affinity for this character, Fluffy, because growing up, the guy that created this, Tom Savini, was one of my favourite guys on the planet. He released these books called Grand Illusions that showed how he did all of his special effects. He was like a special effects maestro who pioneered so many of the techniques that are still used today, from Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Friday the 13th, Creepshow, Blood-Sucking Pharaohs in Pittsburgh. So many cool movies this guy worked on, and one of the ones that he worked on with his brethren, George Romero, was Creepshow. And Tom Savini was never the one that was known most for creating like creature effects. He was always the godfather of gore. He wasn't the creature guy, and then he blew everyone out of the water when he created this guy, Fluffy, the crate creature from Creepshow. Such an iconic image. The box is pretty simple, but it's got something that I really like about it, is it's collector friendly. So we can open this box, which I'm going to do now. I know you get me, I'm opening a toy on this show, something that I never do, but this is because I don't want to rip them open and ruin them. But this thing is collector friendly. I didn't even have to slice a piece of sellotape. So let's open this thing and see what's inside. Do you know me? I'm a smeller when it comes to toys. Whenever you was a little kid, you remember that smell of like fresh plastic? Oh, do you know what that smell reminds me of? Growing up, I was always a collector of toys, but like it differed what kind of toys I were collecting, and I went through a big phase of buying like Spawn figures and McFarlane figures and Movie Maniacs, and they always had that smell. That reminds me of breaking open my Jason and Leatherface Movie Maniacs on Christmas. That's a very nostalgic smell for me. So let's get Fluffy out first. I don't want to damage him. Come on, brethren. Out of that package. There we go. Fucking awesome. So the way that he created this creature, Tom Savini, is he had his head inside that head with an animatronic mouth with saliva that dripped. His arms would go into the real arms, because he always said the best way to do an effect was to use as much of the real human as possible and then manipulate that with prosthetics and puppetry and that kind of thing. So he would put his real hands through the gloves, and then the feet would be fake and his body would come out here. He'd be like stuck into the floor or hidden inside the crate or something like that. So it's cool that we've got his little crouched legs like that, but his arms move. His mouth doesn't open, but it looks just like Fluffy, which is fucking awesome. Who would have ever thought we would get a Fluffy fucking action figure? Let's check out his crate. His crate is huge as well. Good noise. The crate is huge. There we go. And it's got the chains on it to lock this creature down because we don't want it getting out. Shipped to Horlicks University via Julia Carpenter. Do you know what I mean? Those little Easter eggs. Julia Carpenter, who at the time was John Carpenter's wife. I dropped a padlock. So we've got these like little Twizzlers. Let's undo the Twizzlers. And I'm going to put all this shit back after, but just so we can see what's inside. One of the things I don't miss about McFarlane figures and Movie Maniacs is the amount of Twizzlers that used to be on them. So many of these little Twizzles. Just like that. Just how it would be in the movie. You would see just his eyes coming out and his hands. I'll get some nice close-up shots for you just so you can see. Sick! There we go! So there we go, Tom Savini and George Romero's Crate Creature Fluffy there by Monstars. So fucking cool that all these years later we can get merchandise toys of this shit. Like, I never thought growing up watching these movies that one day we'd be able to get something as obscure as the Fluffy Crate Creature made into a little 3.75 size action figure. Fucking awesome. So if you want one of them yourself, head over to Nema Studios. They're the guys that sponsored all the toys on today's show. They're all in the store now. These are like brand new toys that have just dropped. They won't be there for long. They never are. So head over to nemastudios.com, cop yourself some toys and let them know that Slimehouse sent you. I'm Theo Kane. This is All Figured Out and we'll catch you in the next one. But for now, we're gone. Boom.